Well, I'm really excited to be sharing my story here with you today. I feel like I've had 7 first days on the job in the past 9 years, and all of those first days have actually been at the same company. It's been a really incredible journey. LiveRamp has gone through, over the past 9 years, a trajectory that I think very, very few SaaS companies go through. We actually pivoted out of another company, but I joined the company back in 2010. We officially launched our product and found product market fit in 2012 when we started to really generate revenue. And as you can see, we've gone on an incredible trajectory where today we are a publicly traded company doing close to $300 million in revenue and growing 30% year over year. I'm super proud of the business that we've built, and I'm really humbled by the experience that I've had. I'm excited to share some of the learnings because at each phase in the company, it's almost felt like we've been at a totally different company. And there's been many, many challenges over the years. I know many of you here work in partnerships. We're a platform. Our product is about connecting data and enabling an ecosystem to share data really easily and use that data to create incredible experiences for their customers. And all of that is predicated on having partnerships at the center of everything we do. So you can see that our trajectory of the number of partnerships we've supported has just grown astronomically over the years. And so along the way, there's been lots of stories, both in terms of internal partnerships that I've had to build, external partnerships that we've built, mistakes that we've made along the way, and hopefully some of the learnings that I can share with you today are applicable for the situations that you'll be in, regardless of the stage of company that you're in. So rewinding back, when I started at LiveRamp back in 2010, I had just graduated from college. I was doing a search trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to do with my life? I had done an interdisciplinary degree. It was called Mathematics and Computational Sciences. It was a little bit of math, a little bit of computer science, statistics, and something called Management Science and Engineering, which is Stanford's version of industrial engineering. So I did an interdisciplinary degree because I'm a really naturally curious person, and I didn't want to get bucketed into doing any one thing. So this gave me the opportunity to take lots of different classes, both technical classes, but then also things like creative writing and history. And so when I graduated, I was asking myself, hey, what do I really want to do with my life, as many people do when they're graduating from college? And for me, one thing that was really important is I wanted to be at a startup company because I thought that by being part of a startup company, I'd really get a lot of transparency into how companies are built, how decisions were made, and hopefully figure out over time what I wanted my career path to look like. Now, given the background that I had a fairly technical background. I started to look into 2 types of roles. I was looking at product management, and I was looking at engineering, and trying to figure out where could I fit in the startup landscape. And I came across LiveRamp, and I remember from coming in for my interviews, I was just really impressed by the people. I had zero idea what the product did. We were in the pre-product market fit days. How many of you have been at startups where you've been pre-product market fit? Yeah, a lot of you in this room. It's an incredible, it's a fun place to be in because you're constantly iterating. It's also, you come in and as someone coming right out of school and trying to understand the space, I knew that the company did something in data. I knew that we worked with marketers, but we had a lot of different projects that we were running simultaneously to figure out what was actually going to stick. So I joined on the engineering team. In my interview process, I had talked to our head of engineering, also talked about my ambitions to potentially go into product management, which felt like, without really knowing what the role was, felt like something that would play to the interdisciplinary mindset that I had and learnings that I liked to take. And so I started as an engineer. For the first year and a half, I was doing engineering as we were quickly developing products, trying to figure out, is something going to stick, iterating on them, and trying to take them out to market. Eventually, we got lucky, and we found a product that started to get traction. And I think when you're at this stage in a startup, one of the things that's actually really hard to tell is, do you actually have product market fit, or do you think you have product market fit? And some of the signals that we had is first of all, we had clients that were coming to us and actually wanting to buy our products instead of us trying to shove something down someone's throat, which wasn't that successful. And secondly, we had an internal metric that we were using. So we are a platform. Data transactions are happening with us, and we're all about moving and connecting data. And so for us, the metric that we used to track progress in the very early days was something that we called our ramp rate, because name was LiveRamp. And ramp rate wasn't a rate. It was actually just looking at how much data is flowing through our platform and was that data actually usable for our clients. So we started tracking this metric. And I remember this was around like November of 2011, we put a target out there that by May, we were going to hit 40 million. We wanted to hit 40 million in this ramp rate metric. And I remember that being a super ambitious goal for us. We looked at that and we're like, how are we actually going to do that? We're at 5 million right now, and we want to get to 40 million. And over the course of the next couple months, much before May, we blew that number out of the water. And I think that's when the realization hit that, hey, we've actually found something that is adding value to our customers, and people really want to buy, and we can actually build a product here. So it was a really, really exciting time, and it was around that time that the leadership at the company approached me and asked if I was interested in moving into product management. At first, I was a little hesitant because I still felt like I had a lot to learn in engineering, and I was enjoying building products and being really hands-on. But after about a week of thinking about it, I decided that because I thought product management was actually the career path I wanted to go down, I was going to jump into it. And so I was our very first product manager. We had a head of product as well who was focused on a lot of different things, and we together started building out our products. And at the time, we were probably 30 people at the company. So product management included everything from talking to our customers and trying to figure out what it is they wanted us to build, things that are traditionally in product, everything to customer support, troubleshooting engineering bugs, sometimes even building some of the engineering projects myself since I had an engineering background. And around this time too, when we started to get traction, we really pivoted the entire company, this is early 2012, to focus on the new product. And we decided, hey, we're gonna go all in on this product and stop experimenting with these other products that aren't really getting traction on the side. So another area I had to focus on moving into product management was actually helping the team at the company understand what this product was, because only a small percentage of the team had actually been working on this project. And so that was a really interesting experience of just trying to educate the company. And actually we went through, in 2012, a time of very high turnover. Even though that was when the company started being successful, I think the prior year, in 2011, we did $1 million in revenue. So we really, really started taking off in 2012. And despite that, we had a lot of people leaving the company because they were looking for an environment where they just wanted to experiment. It was a lot of people on the engineering team. And so it was a trying time, even though it was also a very exciting time of going through this pivot. And what emerged, though, is that the people that decided to stay, including me, the company was stronger because those people were really dedicated to the company. And over the years, we've had the peaks and troughs of people, of attrition, and that naturally happens. And I think some of the experiences that I've been through have just helped me recognize is that when you're going through those peaks of attrition, there's actually some positive that can come out of it too. It's very trying, but it enables you to actually have a stronger team at the end of the day who are really dedicated to the work that you're doing as a company. So we started to build this product out. We started to build out partnerships and integrations into different platforms. And I was in a product manager role. At that time, I was fairly shy, I would say. I hated talking to people on the phone, so I'd get all clammy anytime I had to go talk to someone on the phone. And so I was really having to learn and figure out how do I interface externally with customers and partners. And luckily, our head of product at the time, who eventually became our CEO, was incredible. And he was really, really good at partnerships. He could imagine the kind of 10-player chess game and predict 5 steps ahead what everyone was going to do. And so one of the things that I started to do is when I'd go to meetings with him, both internal and external meetings, is I would start to try to predict what he was going to say. So someone would ask a question, or maybe he would open the meeting, and I would try to, in my mind, obviously not out loud, try to think about, like, what is he actually going to say? What is he? How is he going to start this? How is he going to answer this question? And what that forced me to do, and it's a trick I still use to this day, both internally and externally, is trying to predict how people are going to answer questions. It forces you to think about how you would answer that question, and it also forces you to, when you predict wrong, what actually happened? Like, are you misunderstanding the strategy, or are you thinking about articulating something in a slightly different way than someone else? And so for the people that I really look up to and I'm learning from and learning about what questions to ask or how to lead a meeting, especially in those early days in my career, it was really valuable to use that trick to continuously improve and get better. So we really started going, 2012 again was a really exciting year because it was really the first year that all of us felt we're on a rocket ship and this opportunity is ours to lose. And so over the next year and a half, it was a really exciting time, and I probably would have continued on the product management track and continued to grow as a product manager, except our head of marketing left the company. And I had been working with her on a lot of the projects to set up the integrations with our marketing stack into our website and set up some of the technology that we were using for running campaigns. And I was really interested in marketing because I felt like as a product manager, I had a really good technical foundation, but I didn't have the outside-in perspective of how do people view us? How do we present ourselves to the world? And so I really wanted to help in the marketing area so that I could learn more about those aspects of product management. And so I went and talked to our head of product, who was also going to own marketing in the interim as we hired someone. And he came back to me and said, hey, you can either help on a couple projects here and there, or you can run marketing while we try to hire someone. It's probably going to be a few months. So I thought about it for a day, and I thought, okay, well, might as well dive full in and take this on and see what happens. And I can always go back to product management if this ends up being a complete and total failure. So I jumped in. 3 months to hire someone actually turned into a year because we up-leveled the role. So I ran marketing, and then I also ended up running recruiting as well for a year, moving out of product management. And that was it was a really fun experience. In 2013, this is 2013, this is when we really started to put ourselves out there, because now we knew we had product market fit, and we were trying to figure out how do we build the right partnerships externally to really accelerate our business. And we were taking very much a channel partnership strategy. So we were looking at other technology platforms out there, other like ad tech platforms and measurement platforms, and really looking at where can we partner with these companies and potentially come together with a mutually beneficial solution to bring to marketers, where we would actually be the connectivity layer that connected offline data into the digital world, and then these platforms would actually enable the marketers to use that data to optimize ads or measure their campaigns in an omni-channel way. So in the marketing role, I had two main responsibilities in 2013. One was putting on our first ever customer event, which was a really fun experience. I was given two objectives. One, just make it a great experience for the participants, and two, the event needed to actually break even. So now I had to jump in to actually raise sponsorship money for an event that we were putting on for the first time. And I was terrified of asking people for money. I remember growing up when I had to do, I was on swim team, and we were doing fundraisers, and you were supposed to go ask all your parents' friends for money for your fundraiser for the swim team, and I was totally terrified. So jumping into sponsorships, I was a little bit hesitant. I'm like, how are we going to actually raise this money? And I think through that, it ended up being a very fun experience, because for those of you who work in partnerships roles where you're closing deals is very thrilling, I found. So I ended up enjoying that experience. But what I learned from that was, okay, how do you package something together that's actually bringing value to the end person and the end partner, and they're actually willing to pay for? And so it ended up being a little easier than I thought it was going to be, but had definitely had to learn along the way in having some of those initial sponsorship conversations of where people are like, why should I do this? What is your event really going to do? And trying to come up with the packages that would actually make sense for them. So I ran the event. Event was amazing. It was we had such great reviews from it, and it was personally a lot of fun for those of you who have organized events. I think there are people that really enjoy it, organizing events, and then there are people that absolutely hate it. I'm definitely the type of person that loves organizing events. So the second responsibility I had was really trying to catalyze these channel partnerships. So trying to figure out, could we do joint webinars? Could we write white papers together? What could we do to actually get our partner ecosystem to lean into us and funnel leads towards us? Because we didn't really have a sales team at that point. We had 1 or 2 people, including our head of product, who were closing deals, but we didn't have a full sales force. So we were really relying on what could the partner ecosystem give to us. And it was hard going at first. I'd send out emails to even partners where our CEOs had a great connection and they wanted to do something with us and just get no response from their marketing team. People didn't want to invest the time. They had a lot of other stuff going on. But slowly but surely, we started to build our brand through our event, through some of the success stories that we built with our customers. We got a few people to take the leap with us and write white papers and do webinars with us. And so we were slowly starting to build up a marketing program. And then I did similar stuff on the recruiting side as well, and that was a great experience. I think it helped me as well in the future as I was building out teams to really understand what it takes to get people in the door for your company and what's going to be really attractive for candidates. So at the end of 2013, we hired a head of marketing, and I was given a choice about what I wanted to do next. And I decided I really wanted to go back into product because that was where my heart was at. And at the time, our head of product had taken on so many responsibilities. He was essentially like our COO. And so he was trying to hire a head of product externally because I was in this marketing role, and he offered me the role. And I was delighted because it was really where my heart was at. I was really excited to learn more about leading teams and excited to take LiveRamp on its next stage of growth. In early 2014, we ran our second annual customer event. Shortly thereafter, we got a term sheet from an investor who wanted to put something like $100 million into the business. And we said, okay, not 100 million. They wanted to they were giving us a valuation of $100 million, and they wanted to put a substantial amount of money into the business. And so we started to ask ourselves, and what is it that we want to do next? And we started to talk to some of the partners where we had built very tight relationships, and telling them, hey, are you interested in LiveRamp, or otherwise we're going to take this funding. And so we got a couple interested parties. One of them was Axiom. And to give you a little bit of background on Axiom, Axiom is a 45-year-old company, probably a little over 45 years old, founded in Conway, Arkansas. It's a company that built its business around managing first-party data for financial services companies, and basically hosting CRMs around in the 80s when a lot of the regulation was changing around what kind of data financial services companies could actually hold, and what needed to be held outside of their four walls. So Axiom built a business around that and eventually extended out into other verticals as well. Very much a services business. Every component of the technology was custom built for clients, but huge, very large revenue and huge cash flow. So it was a great business, but what they were trying to do is modernize. So they brought on a new CEO, I think in around 2011, and he came in to do digital transformation within Axiom. And so they had started to build out some digital products. We were partnering with them, where we were supplying our technology to them as they were building out their digital products. And in building that relationship, they became very interested in acquiring us. And we were going to be the kind of cornerstone of the digital transformation story. So we went through the process. Like when I moved into the head of product role, my first task was actually filling out the 400 due diligence questions that were required to get the acquisition process going. And in May of 2014, we announced that Acxiom was going to acquire LiveRamp for $310 million, which was, we were doing about $30 million in run rate at that time. We had about 56 people on the team. So it was a really great outcome, and we were really excited. There was also a lot of trepidation. Like, I hadn't been through anything like this before. We had a bunch of people on the team who had been through acquisitions, and they all came out of the woodwork with their acquisition horror stories of how companies were destroyed after they were acquired. So he came in saying, okay, what is this really going to be like? And I think one thing that the CEO of Acxiom did really well is he decided to ring-fence LiveRamp and run LiveRamp, let LiveRamp run as a separate division, which was great because Acxiom was, again, a 45-year-old company based in Arkansas. There were probably 3,000 people at the company, so it was much bigger, much more bureaucratic, and we were this really fast-growing SaaS platform company. And so the acquisition closed in July of 2014. And all of a sudden, we're part of this much bigger company. And my first project after we were acquired was actually to migrate the customers who had, well, basically migrate features from the digital product that Acxiom had built onto the LiveRamp platform, and then migrate all the customers onto our platform. And there was a lot of cost savings to be had there for Acxiom, so we wanted the project done within 6 months. So very tall order tasks. These are very large customers of Acxiom that were on these other products. They're customers like Citibank and American Express and Macy's, and very large relationships with Acxiom as well. And so I jumped in, and it was a totally foreign experience trying to operate in a very large, much older company. First of all, the environment that we were walking into wasn't necessarily the most welcoming environment. There had been a lot of layoffs in the years before we were acquired. So a lot of people that were coming into, who saw us coming in, were afraid that we were going to take their jobs. So there was a lot of fear. There wasn't a lot of embracing of risk-taking in the organization. There are some leaders that had been brought on as part of the digital transformation that didn't necessarily treat all the people in Arkansas very well. And so there was a lot of feelings about what was going on, and a lot of people looking at us and saying, who are these kids that are coming in and taking over our business? And so it was a very hostile environment to walk into. And I was walking into an environment where most of the people I was interacting with were 20 years older than me, had a lot more experience than I had, and it was tough. So I had to go in there and figure out, how do I build these internal partnerships with all these people where I need to get them to do something? And it was a lot of trial and error. I think one of the mistakes that I made early on was thinking that we could solve things over email or solve things over the phone when we really needed to meet in person. And it actually took me a while to learn like how valuable the in-person meetings were, to actually like get in front of someone, not let them just like roll their eyes on the phone when you can't see them, but actually be face-to-face and addressing the issues. And I'd go into these Q&A sessions, because we were trying to migrate all these clients over, where people were asking these super aggressive questions and come out like so emotionally drained afterwards, and then have to walk into like another conversation that was just like that. And luckily I had the support of the leadership, so there were a lot of people around me that were supporting the direction that we were going in, but it was certainly one of the most challenging projects that I've ever worked on. And I remember like many sleepless nights and trying to figure out what we should do, getting a lot of mixed signals and information from all over the place. But when we actually successfully migrated everyone over, and we did do it within 6 months, which was an incredible feat, our business really started to take off. So this is now in 2015. We're starting to hit the highest growth we've ever had, because we're able to leverage these really deep relationships that Acxiom had with brands to bring them onto our platform. And that created this network effect where these big brands were coming on. They were bringing with them all of these integration partners that where they wanted to push or pull data into, and we started to really build out this network and get very solid proof points with blue chip brands, and it was a real turning point for LiveRamp. So then we went through a stage where, so we're building all these partnerships, and I wanted to tell a story about a partnership that we had where I felt like it ended up being like a very, very tough situation. So when we were building these external partnerships over the years, we started out where we had we had channel partners that were resellers for us, or we had more informal relationships with them. But over time, we actually started to build products with with our partners. So one such partner of ours was Google. So we worked with Google to build out a solution to help bring in customers that had in-store transaction data, bring that into the Google ad search platform so that Google could provide more omni-channel measurement reports to their customers. So we walk into this, so we had, this relationship probably started in 2014, but I got really involved in it around 2015. And at that point, the partnership was going terribly. We had staffed the account with very junior people on the team, and Google was a tough partner to work with, and we were building a solution together which required a lot of partnership. And when I walked into the situation, the first thing I had to do is we had a call with like one of the SVPs at Google to basically yell at us and tell us like how terrible everything was. Like our systems were failing. We had customers on this product. It was like we had major reliability issues with the product. Google wanted to do more with the product. We didn't want to develop all these features. And we had structured the deal in a way where like we weren't even really getting paid for a lot of the work we were doing. So there was a lot of incentives and setup and things that we had done historically that were not great. On top of that, we had this very junior account team managing this very strategic partner of ours, and the junior account team was very frustrated with Google. And so I walk into the situation, and this is the first time that I was really involved in basically working with an external partner and being the executive sponsor on that. And I walked in, and I would say a lot of the mistakes that I made were not trusting my intuition and trusting what the account team said instead. And a lot of, it was a very interesting situation. If I look back, there were mistakes that were being made on both sides of the relationship. One of the mistakes that was being made is that on both sides, we were walking in with assumptions about what the other side was thinking or doing, or how the solution, the part of the solution that the other side owns. So we were making assumptions about how Google's product worked. Google was making assumptions about how LiveRamp's product worked. And it was just, it was a really bad way to approach the partnership, because what ended up happening is a lot of those assumptions were wrong, and then people weren't asking questions, and said they were dictating stuff to each other, and we really had to come in and reset. And it took a very long time to reset that relationship. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes along the way where I made assumptions and didn't ask enough questions. Certainly that happened with our account teams. Finally, we got to a place where the relationship, we hired more senior people to manage the relationship. We got it on a better footing. We came forward and really put everything on the table about what we'd each done wrong and what we could do better. And we have a very strong partnership there today. But I think when you're walking into partnerships, especially ones where you have to build complex products, it becomes very challenging. So fast forward, we've had this amazing trajectory within Acxiom, and in late 2017, or halfway through 2017, the CEO of LiveRamp decides to leave to go start a new startup, and I became co-CEO of LiveRamp with our Chief Revenue Officer. And stepping into that role was an amazing opportunity. I think a lot of people were really skeptical about how the co-CEO model would work, but because our Chief Revenue Officer and I had such a strong partnership and we worked together for so long, it actually ended up working amazingly well. So about 6 months after we stepped into those roles, as a leadership team within Acxiom, we made a decision to actually split that legacy Acxiom business from LiveRamp. And the reason that happened is really we had gained a lot of our growth in the years after the acquisition came from being a part of Acxiom. But we were starting to kind of tap out on the growth potential there. And when investors were looking at our business, because we were a public company, we're part of a public company, we had this legacy business that was high cash flow, very low growth, and then we had our business, which was a SaaS company growing super fast, not profitable yet, but on a path to be. And so it was hard for people to really value the sum of the parts to what it actually should be. And so we made a decision that we're going to split the assets, move all the technology assets into LiveRamp, and then sell the Acxiom legacy services business. So I worked on a project as part of this, which was the most complex deal that we've ever done. So we had to split these businesses. We had to write an intercompany agreement to actually govern how each company would interact with each other after we were two separate companies. And we had to do this while also running a sale process, not knowing who the end buyer for the other division may be. And not knowing that whether someone may come in and buy the whole thing, because once you put one part on sale, anything can happen. And so we started this negotiation process where we were trying to write down every single interaction we had between two parts of the company with on paper and write a contract around that, write SLAs and terms. And it was very heated. We're trying to figure out how do we protect each part of the business, especially if the Axiom business got bought by someone that might be hostile towards us. We needed to protect our value in LiveRamp, but we also need to ensure that we were preserving value in the other division. And so we spent probably hundreds of hours internally, division to division, trying to work out these details. And it was hard because there's a lot of baggage from the years of working together. And so people were bringing all that baggage to the table. And eventually we sold Axioms to a big advertising agency, IPG. We announced that in July. We sold it for $2.3 billion, which was more than the market cap of the entire company the week before. So it was an amazing outcome. And over the course of the next 3 months, we had to finalize these agreements and separate out the companies and actually stand up LiveRamp as a public company. And that all closed. The deal closed in October of last year. So as of this year, as of October, we're a newly minted public company, and it's been incredible. As part of these agreements that we were working on, we had a part that was lingering past the end of October. And it was one where so many different leaders had come in to try to negotiate this piece of the contract. And finally, I was able to step in and get the deal done. And it was a real turning point for me when I saw that I was able to do that, because I felt like, looking back at the journey that I had been on, I'd come so far from where I'd been, where I wasn't able to even talk to people on the phone without clamming up, to a point where I could negotiate a really complex deal that no one else was able to do. And the reason I was able to do it is because I approached it without thinking about all the baggage that we had in the past, without making assumptions about what the other side was going to do. And I really focused on how do we create the most value. And I was able to I had a foundation of trust that I had built with the other person that I was negotiating with that enabled me to be successful and to get that deal over the line when no one else in the company seemed able to do it. So today, I am a president of and a executive officer of a public company. It's been an amazing experience. I run product engineering, security, and all of our technical services teams. And I think that the thing that really, the lesson that I've taken away from this experience, and the lesson that I want to share with all of you, is that I think the best way to approach work is to assume that every day is your first day. And walk in without carrying any baggage into what you're doing and without making assumptions. And if you do that, you can achieve something that you think is you would have thought would be absolutely impossible had you looked at it from the very beginning. And this trajectory, I could never have imagined that this is what would have happened for us. And I can't imagine, I couldn't have believed that this is what would have happened for me. So thank you.
Well, wow, that's an amazing story. Thank you so much for telling us this. So much of your story, you said you came up to a challenge and you said you just jumped for it. But it must have been, at the beginning, a habit to overcome of hesitating. And now that you're coaching so many people, you're a manager, and you're trying to encourage people to do the same thing. What do you say to get people to just go for it and jump through that door?
I think a lot of people, and this is what I've personally experienced. First, I think that because I've gone through that so much, I'm able to share the personal experiences with everyone. I think a lot of people look at others around them and think that they're not scared when those other people are jumping into a new situation. And the reality is, every person I talk to, when they're jumping into a new role or jumping into an unfamiliar situation, they feel some trepidation. And that's okay, and it's about embracing that and not fearing the failure of what's to come. And for people that report to me, I assure them that I will protect them from that. And it's really about not thinking about what mistakes you're going to make, because you are going to make mistakes along the way. And it's not about not making mistakes, but it's about how you recover from those mistakes.
And so much of it requires support network. You have such a great relationship, for instance, with your CRO, CEO. A lot of us are often the only partnership person. But what did you do to cultivate a support network to do these complicated deals? And when they fail or are in trouble, how did they support you?
I think not only for deals, but for a lot of situations that I've been in, I feel like every day I'm approaching situations that I've never seen before, or approaching situations that I have seen before, but having to solve them at a scale that is much, much larger than anything I've tackled. And I just reach out to anyone and everyone. When I get anxious, my default mode is to start going and doing things. And one of the things I start doing is just reaching out to people and asking them, even people that I don't know if they can actually give me the right advice. But I have people that I've just built relationships with internally by just getting to know them and sitting with them at lunch. I have people that I have actively asked people that I know to introduce me to, for instance, heads of product that have been through a stage of growth that we're yet to go through, so that I can understand what that experience is like and try to glean as much information as possible. So I'm very hungry for information, and I love meeting people, and I'm naturally curious about people, so that I use that as a way to just connect and ask for help. And typically when you're asking someone for help, people are really eager to share their experience and their help with you, and I've found that that's been very, very helpful. That's brought me a lot of outside experience that otherwise I wouldn't have had myself.
Amazing. Questions?
So I have a question. Great story. This is amazing. Can you give us some insight into your partnership team today? What's the organization like? And then how would somebody partner with LiveRamp?
Yeah, so our partnership teams has evolved over the years. We've had when we started and we were small, we had partnership teams that weren't like revenue focused teams. They were just people that were going out and helping us build integrations, and we were incentivizing them based on like signing more integrations and getting more usage on the platform. Today we have like many different sales teams. So we have sales teams that are going out and helping embed our solutions into the network. And then we also have a BD team that's really just focused on how do we add more mutual benefit onto the platform. So we actually have different teams that focus on different aspects of partnerships. But we're signing new partners all the time. And so if you want to work with us, that's amazing. Like, reach out to me. My email address is just my first name, Anneka@liveramp.com, and I'll connect you with our teams. What we're really excited about is figuring out how we can be the data and identity foundation for any company that is trying to use data to make better decisions.
Questions? One over here.
This may be probably a difficult question for you to simplify, but you have been through so many transitions, you shared so many challenges, so many lessons learned. Like, what's your one piece of advice based on everything that you've gone through so far that you would kind of leave with the room?
I think the one thing that is one of my mantras internal to myself, and I share this with others, is that everyone has something to teach and everyone has something to learn. And if you approach partnerships is about building trust with another person and is about building relationships. And even though a lot of the situations I face, I'm so much younger and so much less experienced than the people I'm working with, and it's been hard for me to always recognize that I actually have something to teach as well, even if I don't have as much experience. And I think recognizing that two-way thing, that two-way ability to like give something to someone else and also get something back from them, that's something that I think can set people up to be so successful beyond what they think is achievable.
Questions? All right. Well, with that, I will say thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.